what do you think is let's say someone new's getting into the top, right? You're sitting on an airplane, you meet somebody, but they're like, okay, how do I get into this? I don't know anything about this. What do you suggest to them to start? Or is that even something you think about? I don't know. Is there, I don't know. A book,
Yeah. It's
something, I don't know.
I don't feel this need to evangelize and to corrupt people into the phenomena. I think the universe needs to tap you for things that you're really going to lean into, however it may do that. My father's books are a good place to start for like a basic primer from a scientific point of view. But nowadays you search online either through Google or one of the answer engines, as I call them, the LLMs. Yeah. And you will, if you spend a little time, you will gravitate to things that resonate with you, whether it's a YouTube video, podcast, books, movies, etc. And it's hard to really know, just sitting next to someone on an airplane, really what the best avenue for them is. I will, if they start talking about it, I will mention why I think there's why a reasonable person can believe that there's a phenomena going on, and I'll spend time on that, and then they're off to the races.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Blue Book is such a cornerstone maybe in the timeline of studied ufology, at least in the United States. How it fits in, the brick in this wall. I'm curious just how you see Blue Book, like how you describe it or how you talk about it.
Well, it was to our knowledge, the longest running official Air Force or governmental agency or department to formally study UFOs. And my father was the scientific consultant. But almost from the very beginning, it wasn't a serious scientific research effort. It was a PR exercise to tamp down hysteria. So it was a very frustrating involvement for my father, who was a scientist. But it gave him, as we talked about, a front row center to this phenomenon and access to information and an ability to influence, not control, how the government proceeded. But, it was, and I alluded to before, the government is engaged in disinformation campaigns, and, I don't follow the latest congressional testimony or this or that whistleblower. I just don't care. They're a bad faith, corrupt central actor. And if I was an Air Force general, I wouldn't divulge jack shit. It's not my job to better humanity or lessen dependence on fossil fuels. It's my job to kick ass, and that's what I'm going to do. And no pasty-faced pencil pusher on Capitol Hill waving a subpoena in my face is going to change my mind. I'm Jack Nicholson on the wall, so shut the fuck up. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Why do you think there is this stigma? Like, why did they try to put out disinformation campaign? Why would they care if people were interested in this or not?
So think about, and a lot of this was through the lens of the Air Force. So think about, what is the job of the Air Force? To exert superiority over foes and protect us from foes. Well, part of that mission, a bit larger, is to create the perception amongst the citizenry that they are protecting us. To have this perception of security. So if we feel relatively confident that the Russians or the Chinese or North Koreans aren't going to lob missiles on us, that's great. But if there's this rising tide of perception that, hey, it's not the Russians and Chinese we got to worry about, it's the Pleiadians. and we are powerless to stop them, that's going to kind of put a dent in the armor of the Air Force's sacred ability to protect us. So, yeah, if we can't stamp out these reports, if we can't rubber stamp solved on all the cases that come in to the satisfaction of the populace, let's just make it all look silly and put it to bed. That's a perfectly reasonable approach for them to do in light of their mission of making us feel that we are protected from anything that enters the airspace.
Sure. So it could just be the same reason, like if we had a crash UFO or bodies or whatever, then the same thought, right? We need to make it look silly so people aren't looking into it, right? Like,
yeah, either make it look silly or shut people up so they don't talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Because I started thinking, like, why doesn't the government put out disinformation campaigns against Santa Claus or Jesus Christ, or you know what I mean? Like, why would
whoa, I'm not touching that one, mister.
Yeah, well, I just mean religion, right? Like, what? It's like people's beliefs, right? Why is there no? But because there's no, the safety issue you're talking about, for instance, isn't there with that, right? Nobody's worried that Santa's good. He comes once a year. I mean, that's how it goes, right? So, but the idea of aliens or UFOs flying around, okay, we have to take care of this and handle this.
So, Patrick, you're saying that Bad Santa wasn't funded by the government?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you're going to ride that horse, go right ahead.